How's it going? My name's Eric. Will you be my friend? Welcome to Talking with Homeless People, the world's greatest and internet's only YouTube channel. I personally want to wish you the very merriest of Christmases. Hello. It's turtle problems. I'm not the Reuben man. I'm Eric. Hi, Daniel Berry Sports Highlights. Happy Twesday to you as well. It is Twesday, you're right. Really, shouldn't we call it Twesday? I think so. I think it should be pronounced Twez. So, past, present, future. I want to talk about this. There's something Taylor told me about. Taylor from Flow State told me about this one time. I don't know if you guys know him or not. Taylor from Flow State is a guy who lives in Missouri. And I visited him one time on a cross-country trip. A couple times, actually. I've visited with him. He's a cool guy. I like him. Anyway, he told me this stuff about past, present, future one time. I was thinking about it more this morning about how it's actually a rather significant factor in your personality, like Enneagram, that I'm not sure is inherently covered by cognitive functions. A bowl an hour keeps the weed man in flower. Interesting. Well, I made a California is a beautiful country. California is actually not a country, but that's fine. Past, present, future is a significant factor in personality, just as Enneagram is. It's not covered by cognitive functions. And what I mean by past, present, future is that it seems as though, anecdotally, I've determined that this is consistent with my observations of everybody I know. That everybody has one of the following relationships with past, present, future. One, they have a negative relationship with, primarily of, well, like, that's, this time frame is where bad and scary stuff is. They have a romanticized, optimistic view of one of those three things. This time area is where bad stuff happens. Where good stuff happens, and I don't really need to worry about it, and etc. And then they have a realistic or action-oriented frame on one of them. So for me, I find the past scary and bad. I'm overly optimistic about the future. And I tend to be realistic and effective about the present. Of course, being effective about the present is no way to plan somebody's life. How does it already sound? So this title is kind of a trick title. You're none of those three things, but you have one of those you have all three of those relationships with past, present, and future. One of them you romanticize and are basically overly optimistic about. One of them you are avoidant towards, think is bad. That's where bad stuff lies. And one of them you're realistic about. So I really find the past horrible. The past is just a place where bad memories come from and pain exists. Sure, your perceptions, there's no inherent reason why it should be this way, okay? So, I'm not saying that there's some kind of structural inherency to this idea that makes it such that people must have this kind of good, bad, realistic linkage between the three possible frames of time that humans understand time is occurring in, you know? How do you, Melissa, how's it going? Nice to see you again. I was thinking about you actually earlier this morning before I started streaming. I was thinking about, well, I don't know. It's too involved to think about. I was thinking about you in the sense of somebody that came around and was very pleasant and engaged, and I enjoyed engaging with them. In contrast, or next to, juxtaposed, just alongside, I guess you'd say, the case study of Lightbow, who was somebody who I also enjoyed engaging with, but who eventually said one thing to me. I guess I am going to do it now. Who eventually said to me something nobody should ever say to me. This woman had the audacity to say to me, Eric, you don't understand meta-analysis. Now, if he just said that out of the blue, out of context, or in any sort of neutral context or whatever, I would have just been like, okay, I don't know where you got that notion from, but believe me, the reason you don't agree with me about meow is not because of my failure to understand meta-analysis, but instead she said it in relationship to COVID fatality numbers from Italy, as we're supposed to talk about, and I fucking blew a gasket. Yelled at her as I was like doing laps around the house, basically with my high-paced walking around the outside of the house. Yelled at her, like, you know, this is a public policy matter. Stay in your fucking, she was a doctor. Medical doctors. Anyway, that's what I was thinking about you. Like, I wonder if I'm going to do that to her at some point. I haven't seen Lightbow since. Which is kind of a shame because I tend to think that shit happens, you know, and boys will be boys again, as they say. But she's probably busy with her infant child. She was very pregnant at the time and was due to give birth to a human child. I'm sure that was like, you know, she was a couple of weeks out from that, but from giving birth, maybe a week or so from giving birth when she fucked up. Meow. Daddy knows and Daddy loves. Yes. Daddy understands. Daddy respects. Daddy hypes. Daddy emulates. Daddy admires. These are just a few of the verbs that Daddy does. Oh. it's pretty obvious, for example, between me and Rachel are differing understandings of the past, present, and future. I think that Rachel's Rachel's definitely okay. Well, like if you look, you can sometimes. I guess the idea of me talking about this. Hi, everybody. Hi, Sandy Chair. Hi, Depeche Mode. What if a girl? Why is it if a girl has sex with a lot of guys, she's called slut, but if a guy does, he's called gay? Hilarious, hilarious humors. I love that. That's great humor. And the answer is because both statuses would be made true by the aforegoing premises. There, kitty. I'm watching you eat. What do you want? All right, you want to go back in the living room so I can see your chat for a second, but I would say that Rachel is probably pessimistic about the present, optimistic about the past, and realistic about the future. If you look at it in terms of how Rachel and I express our respective jealousies, for example, I tend to be jealous almost entirely about the past, not about. I'm realistic about the present. I, even with the insanity, irrational insanity of jealousy, I know Rachel's not cheating on me or anything. It'd be impossible for her to physically be cheating on me because we're just so isolated, but etc. And then when it comes to the future, I'm not worried about it particularly, even though realistically, I probably should be most jealous about the future and how, she'll have youthful dating capital after I'm old or something like that, And she's not so, although she has been, and we're all sometimes, hi Santa Chair, you need what? Tomorrow's your birthday. Happy birthday. All right, let's see what it says. Hold on. Okay, well, I mean, so you're saying he made this prediction, um, Show Media says he made this prediction when? 4 months ago, okay? And the prediction is he had some sort of vision or dream in which he sees a bullet that barely misses Trump and shoots his ear. And he had this vision. Well, he also sees a lot. He also says a lot of other things there, right? That are just whatever. It is kind of surprising that happens. I believe that it not, it's like it's a good hit among a splatter of different things he's saying. He also says that after he gets shot in the ear, he falls to the ground and becomes obsessed with Jesus, which clearly did not happen. So, only the Simpsons can predict the future. But I want to answer this question Melissa asked. Like, your own desire for her makes you feel jealous about anything she has necessarily done. It's not really exactly jealousy. It's more like insecurity in that I don't like the idea of potentially comparing badly against previous partners or in any way, like either in terms of my emotional connection, in terms of our physical connection. Really, it's more the latter. It's ridiculous to imagine that I would ever, have wanted or conceivably could have even made it. It would be impossible to imagine me at whatever age I was, 46 or something, and Rachel at, that's been 48, and Rachel at 34, maybe it's probably 47, I don't know. Rachel at 34 years old, there's no possible way that she's going to have been a virgin at 34. I got as clean and baggage free in terms of a lot of things a woman as one could conceivably hope to get. She's my third wife for Christ's sakes, whereas she's previously unmarried, has no kids, no tattoos, no sexually transmitted diseases. It's not like I want Rachel to not have had the life she had up until she had it, because it created in part the person that she is, Elon Musk is working for the devil. I didn't know the devil was hiring. He likes sending flying dildo rockets to the firmament. Well, I get that it's natural, Melissa Montague. But what I'm trying to get at is how our relationship with past, present, future may express as how we experience jealousy. Because Rachel, I think, is strangely more concerned with things like I have great compatibility with Mia celebrity, and that someday we'll meet and that I'll be enamored with them or something. That suggests pessimistic understanding of the future, whereas my concern that Rachel, of course, is not thinking about her past partners at all, because she's SI8 and she just doesn't spend time being haunted by her past. Unfortunately, I'm SI4th, which means I'm frequently being haunted by intrusive memories, intrusive thoughts about the past. Which is more accurate than intrusive memories. It's not like I get a flash of the scene that occurred. It's that I get kind of language-based recognition of the fact that that event happened, whatever it was, and what it means. And I think for when things make me feel pain, and we can have pain about the future, it's called like anxiety. We can have pain in the present, which might be called sad, Well, I mean, we're talking about emotional pain, right? Or distress, not physical. So, pain in the present is like, I guess, I'm, let's say, like, this is a kind of hardcore example. Let's say your child is kidnapped and you're waiting to get them back or something. There'd be very much pain about the present. You feel a great deal of distress emotionally right now and feel a need to resolve a problem that's occurring right now. Distress emotionally about the past, it's guilt or shame or grieving potentially, But I think grieving is distress in the present about a loss, which is different than distress about the past. And includes guilt, shame, regret. Anything else? Well, it could include anger, like if you're angry about something that was done to you in the past, The anger is not the one that bothers me so much. Um, okay, Peter. You're talking about your penis. I think she means mean, and I don't think she's praising you for your level of transparency. Okay. uh, but I mean that is an area, obviously, where maybe not every man, most of us, regardless of, it's like basically, unless you're the world's biggest man, you're gonna have some kinds of insecurities about your genitals. So if you're a man, so that's just how it is. Anyway, so regarding the past and the present and the future, I guess what I just was trying to what I just articulated there is a good way to understand it, which is pain about the past is guilt, shame, potentially anger. That doesn't really qualify as pain, but uh, I think anger could potentially go in all of them. But pain in the present uh, is distress over the suffering happening right now. Well, Elliot, that resolves it for you. You don't have to ever feel insecure. Okay, well, there's no such thing, Peter. Okay, there's no such thing as dick enlarging cream. Is it wrong that you don't feel bad for things you've done? It probably means you're young, Elliot, and potentially have a very unconscious relationship with your own emotions. There are things I I did when I was younger that I didn't feel bad about for years until years after I did them. As I've gotten older and grown as a human being, I've become increasingly sensitive, and increasingly aware of how fragile people are, and how I too, traumatize people in various ways, little and big. Nothing super big, but That's dick privilege speaking through me. What is? Um, Me saying that we all, unless you're the biggest man in the world, all males have some insecurities about themselves because, especially in dealing with the past, right? You don't you don't want to talk about it with your partner, obviously explicitly, but um, you always have in the back of your mind, like, who knows exactly who she's been with and and what kind of a monster he might have been, what kind of a monster he might have had in the fence. So it's things like that are not productive to talk about, to think about, or talk about really with your partner at all. There's nothing to be done about it, regardless. So, and just like you love your partner and are not comparing her to previous partners unless you're really in the wrong relationship, and aren't thinking about previous partners really at all. Instead, you're thinking about her previous partners that you don't know anything about, really, except maybe a few of them that she told you about or whatever. Hi, Mr. Cartopple. That's a good general announcement, Elaine. Thank you. So, those are the kind of things that uh, right. Look, I'm not saying it's a good idea to be worried about yourself, right? Or spend time fixating on your past partners or whatever. I'm saying that it's kind of hard to be a beta male in contemporary in the contemporary moment. And I consider myself such. I may not appear as such in my current capacity as internet world's most correct person and internet's most sassy SaaS provider, because I could be those things sometimes. I mean, I am the former thing all the time, but I could be the latter thing plenty of times. But I don't view myself in terms of, like, I guess, sexual capital, sexual economics, romantic economics, or whatever, or economy. I consider myself 100% a beta male because that's what I've always considered myself or thought of myself as, whether I use that term or not. Girls are scary. They don't like me. And I don't know what I'm doing. And they're going to be able to obviously tell that I don't know what I'm doing. So I just try to find one and marry her as quickly as possible. And just kind of hope for the best. So even though if I were to, even though if I were to actually meet various people that she were with, I'm sure I would be like, oh, that scrub? Like, whatever. First of all, I am 6'5" tall, okay? And I'm not a big guy. Like, I would never be an offensive lineman, but I'm not. I'm thin, but at this point, I'm not skinny like I used to be when I was a kid, right? Certainly, in terms of engaging with words, nobody intimidates me at all. I'm not worried about that at all. But there's one exception area. It's like, if they engage me with words like, don't forget, I fucked your wife, then I'm just completely defeated and I don't know, even know. I give up right now. You hurt my feelings so much that I don't want to even continue this conversation. So it's like, regardless, if I were to actually meet them all, I'm sure that I'd feel just fine. I'd realize, like, first of all, that probably most of them are perfectly regular, nice people who are not the boogeyman men that I make them out to be in my brain, right? And that even the shitty ones, I wouldn't feel inferior by comparison when dealing with them, engaging with them, or whatever in the world. I wouldn't feel inferior on any external metric, like, capacity to provide for her, or um, whatever else. Like, let's say he was super muscly, that wouldn't really bother me. Like, being less muscly than one of her exes wouldn't really bother me. I wouldn't like it if one of her exes was taller than me, and I wouldn't like it if one of her exes, because I'm not, because being tall is so important, but because I'm so accustomed to being taller than everybody else that I encounter. It would just be like, what? Get out of here, you taller than me guy. Um, I guess if we were wearing tight pants or something, and I saw that he had a baby's arm hanging down to his knee, tucked down one side of his slacks, that would be like a punch to the gut. Oh God. Hey, bro, glad to see Rachel's got herself a nice guy. Yeah, me, I'm always kind of juggling chicks. I got Susie and Julie, Judy and Kimmy, Betty, and that guy would be like, oh God. No, she and I had a wild 2 months. It was wild, sweaty 2 months. You know what a kitten she is in the bedroom, bro. It's like that would be my worst fucking nightmare. You know how crazy this girl is. Oh God, it went on for days on end. The passion. You know how much more passionate we were back when we were younger. How much more appetite we had for it. It's like, oh, for fuck's sake. Yeah, we're married. I'm not worried about losing her. Like, this is the kind of thing I'm talking about. How jealousy is both. Well, there's a saying I saw on a show last night that got me thinking about jealousy a bit, which said, jealousy is thin and yellow because it bites but never eats. It's this old Spanish saying or something like that. Because this girl, lady in the streets, but freak in the sheets, am I right? That would be that'd be the worst. That would be just like one of those horrible cringe movies scenes where everything goes in the worst possible way for the new boyfriend. I'm not, remember, Rich and I have been together for almost 5 years, and we're married for over a year now. No, nothing's going on between me and Rachel at all. We're fine. We're perfectly fine. This began as a conversation with one's relationship with the past, present, and future. I have a bad relationship with the past, even the speculative past, right? I was just making up a scenario that would be very painful for me to experience, right? The Welding Beaver says, I give him big cringe vibes. Well, you should probably get out of here then, Welding Beaver, because I don't want you to cringe. I know how uncomfortable that is to feel super cringy because someone's being very awkward. So probably find a more socially graceful streamer because cringing sucks ass. Anyhow, yeah, I get it. It's like you responded to that in such a socially graceful way, Eric. It's almost as though you were knowingly meta destroying him. I was, kind of. It just happens, these things. Also, kind of. So, in contrast, I never worry about her meeting somebody new. I never worry about like that guy over there who's engaging in small talk with Rachel. I do sometimes when I watch the live streams when she's streaming. I'll make note of all the sweaty guys trying to get on her and people coming in and saying things like, shake those big milkers. Which is, of course, very rude. I do not mean to validate by laughing about it, but it's also kind of funny. It's the power of boobs. There's no lie, there's no lie, there's no lie. Big boobs, Okay, so anyway, but I don't feel jealous about the present. I'm not worried. When I periodically am in the stream and guys will sort of unabashedly try to like make plans with her and stuff, And I had this one guy from New York, at least apparently, attempt to, say, but he explicitly said, like, I'm interested in dating you, and if necessary, I'll date me as well. Just like, okay. I tried to respond to it and said, I'm talking to her. Okay. Well, anyway, the thing is, that doesn't make me feel jealous. I think Drake, he got absolutely destroyed in the rap battle, so to speak. But it's important for us to remember that Kendrick Lamar is no saint. He apparently is a domestic violence guy, and that's not a whole lot better than a guy who's exploitative with young women, sometimes underage, apparently. I think Kendrick Lamar, it's not that I don't think Drake deserved it. I think Drake deserved it. But I don't think that Kendrick Lamar should come out of this smelling like quite so many roses. SPFL predictions? I'm not sure what SPFL means. Space Pancake Flinging League? The Space Pancake Flinging League. He makes songs like where he's sad a woman is with another guy and he calls her house to convince her to be with him instead. Well, you could be a ballerina if you'd like. That's fine. You just can't be a moderator. I heard a song the other day called Jesse's Girl. Oh, that's not a hating song. That's more like unrequited love song. because in that song he doesn't steal Jesse's the singer is Jesse's friend, right? And it's not like this that Jesse stole the girl from the singer or anything. The singer saying, I'm in love with my friend's girlfriend, basically. And I wish I had a girl like that. He's pining for her, yeah. I wouldn't call it a hater song at all. Like, in contrast, like Best Friend's Girl by the Cars. In that song, the girl used to be the singer's, but Aaron, who's Aaron? It's a transgression against God to covet your neighbor's wife. What if? Well, I mean, I think it's a transgression against God to go. I mean, I think it's a transgression against morality to go after people who are in relationships once they like made it clear to you that they're in a relationship. However, there are occasions where if the person in the relationship is doing all the pursuing, of somebody who's single, in those instances, you should not engage in that with that person at all. But I've been in that situation before, and I did end up. I regret it, of course. I wish I hadn't. I would never do anything like that again, even if I were single. But you don't need to be in a relationship, right? You don't need to be in one. But if you are in one, there are certain, and if you are a relationship person like me, I'm not saying it's better to be that, but if you are that, it comes with certain kinds of fears. It's a beta male thing, as far as I'm concerned. I I I don't have a lot of faith in. I didn't. I wasn't somebody who like in high school had dating capital or something. Um, I think we're weird back then, but you know, I was scared of girls, and I liked them, and I liked to have them around, and I didn't want to scare them off, so that meant I didn't want to hit on them because girls don't like me, you know. Now the issue is not that I'm stuck in the past. Here I am. What I'm saying is everybody has a one of three relationships with each of these frames of time, and that in this understanding of things, whether it's correct or not is hard to say exactly, because it's just something Taylor told me about one time, and there's no particular reason why it should be this way, but it seems to play out this way for most people, that you have one. Go outside. You go outside. That you have one of you treat one, you catastrophize one, you romanticize another, and you're realistic about a third. So I catastrophize the past, I romanticize the future, and I'm realistic about the present. That's my way. Here, Lamb, if this is correct, then you catastrophize either the past, present, or future. You romanticize either the past, present, or future, and you are realistic about either the past, present, or future. Well, here, Lamb, if I were in my head trying to figure out, as I sometimes am, trying to figure out, say, how the mechanics of this idea of past, present, future, orientation, etc., works with cognitive functions, and I weren't thinking about my own past at all, then you wouldn't say the problem is I'm too in my head. Goofy goober, I don't own a farm. Even if I did, slave labor is a terrible idea for farm management. It doesn't work. And what I will do is say the goodbye word. Goodbye, goofy goober. You talk with you hand too much. I do. You're an overthinker. So if you're an INFJ, Melissa, which I'm not saying I doubt it necessarily, but it's just that it's impossible for me to know if people have themselves typed correctly. Isn't it? What you don't seem inconsistent with your self-typing, but so I catastrophize the past, I romanticize the future, and I am realistic about the present. Temporal teleporter says switch the present and future for him. Well, that's true, Hero Lamb, but it's also true that the people who are naturally facile with the mechanics of dating and romance and such, in other words, that are naturally good at getting chicks. I was talking with Rachel about this the other day in the kitchen. I was saying, she was explaining how she knows about failure on dating sites. And I explained to her, Rachel, you do not know about failure on dating sites, okay? What you know about is a reality that is difficult for most heterosexual females. If you're a girl who wants to be in a relationship, wants to find a nice guy to be with, who checks off all your boxes, well, you're going to want somebody that you can, that's easy to deal with, right? That's cool, that's pleasant, that's not making a big deal of things, etc. So it's like guys who know how to get chicks, they're pleasant, they enjoy engaging with them, etc. And they're not nervous, and they're not making too much out of everything, like it's not too important to them. So they can be themselves and comfortable and cool and whatever. But they're not really in it for the long haul, probably, because after all, how did they get so comfortable with chicks? By fucking a bunch of them, right? So the guys who are most likely to check off a chick's boxes over the course of the small amount of time that people have a chance to get to know each other before having sex, right? The people who are likely to check off those boxes in the initial block of time are the same people who are probably not going to check off the next part of the boxes for relationship part, right? If you're going to be somebody who's good in a relationship, who wants to be in a relationship yourself as a man, who's not interested in casual sex, etc., then you're not going to be good at the first part of dating, and you're not going to check off those boxes. You're going to make a bad initial impression, and your insecurities are going to show through, your fear, your nervousness, etc. So what ends up happening is the people who are able to manage the beginning part of a relationship well among males are guys who are not interested in long-term relationships because they're there to manage the beginning part, get to that third date, bang that chick, and put her in a list of chicks that they periodically bang, maybe. I mean, the thing is, I don't think you need to be a big talker for online dating sites, because I have the trick I used for online dating, which worked unbelievably well, okay? Which is I went on a dating, on OkCupid, I started doing this, and it worked incredibly well. You go to the girl's page, right? And you message her saying, hey, I've been checking out your profile, and you seem really cool, whatever. I actually am, it says like the general area of LA where they live, right? So you go, I'm actually out near your general area today and would like to meet up at this specific restaurant near that general area at this specific time for dinner, my treat. If you say that same day, right? I'm in your area right now. I would like to do this today. Then the chick will message you back saying, well, I can't do it today, but how about meow? But of course, it's got to be your treat too. Well, that's what I'm saying. You are better off meeting the girl in person. And the problem with online dating is it's a bunch of back and forth that never goes anywhere. In contrast with my approach, if you initiate as the male with that approach, then the chick is pushed to respond in a serious way. Either no thanks, I'm not interested, or just ignore it, or they never say yes, I'll meet with you today. But the ones who don't say, who don't dismiss it, you'll get most of the time you'll get a reply that says, well, today's that doesn't work for me, but how about Wednesday or something like that. Melissa gets it, right? You just say, I'm in this area near where it says you are. I would like to take you to this specific place at this specific time today, after work. You down, my treat. And then the ball's entirely in their court, right? You've indicated to them that you've read their whole profile and that you like them, that you think they're interesting, they're cool, you might be interested in them. And and you've said, and you'd like to take them out today at this place near them. Now they're like, oh, geez, what to do? Because they can't say like, well, tell me more about yourself, because you've already indicated to them, you've learned about them through their profile. No one's meeting anyone on YT or Reddit? I mean, it's so ridiculous, Mr. Generic, that it's not just so ridiculous that people around here met on YouTube. It's so ridiculous that a person 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 chats below you was in a relationship with somebody she met here on Talking with Famous People. I met my wife here on YouTube, and there's been more than one marriage emerging from people meeting and talking with famous people. Ruben and Acacia, our friends, met each other on Talking with Famous People and have come visited and stayed with us before, or stayed at the other house too. And they look to be probably getting married. It seems like they're super serious. Elaine's relationship with Chris didn't work out, but not all of the relationships people started on Talking with Famous People end in marriage. Only some of them do. I mean, you may not meet a woman who's also in the UK through YouTube. That may or may not be the case. But what may happen, Mr. Generic, around here anyway, is it's a perfect dating environment. It's not explicitly a dating environment. I am not here to find people matchups or whatever, but it's a safe and engaging place of like-minded people to hang out and chat that's consistently there, right? So in other words, I stream most every day, it seems like. And where did I put that beer that I got? That I don't call it beer. So it's like you got plenty of opportunities to see one another and kind of like each other a little bit in the chat. But it's also some place where I don't have like a community hangout thing like Discord. I mean, there is a Discord, but I have nothing to do with it. It's related to this channel, but I don't have anything to do with it. But so it makes sense then that people around here, they're going to have a chance to engage with each other while the stream's going on, and then there's going to be a vacuum, so they're going to end up engaging with each other someplace else. So the thing is, I was concerned about meeting a woman in my geographic area. I didn't want anything long distance, which is why I was on OkCupid at all, because I was like, okay, I'm gonna find a chick in my vicinity this way. Except I didn't find the right chick that way, and so eventually I just said on my YouTube channel, I'm single. I'm not being able to find any new chicks. I knew it. See, my soulmate right drawing was right, Elaine. Proof positive. Um, so, I mean, the thing is, I don't know who I like, right? So, I said on the channel, like, hey, I'm trying to find my next relationship. Does anybody want to go out with me? And I was shocked. So, like, shocked by the amount of people who were like, yes, I want to fuck you. And I was like, what? Nobody under 30. Uh, anyway, I ended up with Rachel after some strange like oh God, what is this? You're like presenting people to me or something? You know, like I had this one video conference where there was like several chicks there. I was like, what in the world is this? I don't remember exactly how that came about. Somebody else like set that up. Anyway, I ended up with Rachel and things are hunky dory because at least that way I knew the person liked me already before I was even available to be dating. They liked me just as a person, right? They liked my channel enough to leave multiple comments on it. They liked my channel enough to appear in the live streams. They watched my videos. Left nice comments on my music, which was nice. So that's and she felt like she already knew me, right? So even though she was flying out to me from New York, we had chatted on video conference and stuff, and but she had spent God knows how many hours watching me engage in live streams and watching my videos and stuff. So she more. I mean, you know what you're gonna get when you deal with Eric, because I'm the same way I am when streaming or not. So I'm just more talkative when streaming. I'm more likely to be watching TV when I'm not streaming. Hero Lamb, your advice is that's not true what you're saying, right? It's true in the sense that I remember some other ISFP. I asked this chick, then the chick after him, my cat is named actually. Like I was talking about dating, and she said to me, "Dating is just getting to know people." I'm like, okay, I get it. It's incredibly easy for you. it, you know, it's incredibly easy for you, Hero Lamb, as it was for Capillo, and it doesn't help us understand how easy it is for you to say, you just do this easy thing in this obvious way. It's not that easy for those of us who are, as you might say, thinking about it too much. Or as Taylor Briggs would say, puss shy. I'm a little puss shy, you know? I'm not puss shy. I'm not shy with Rachel's puss, obviously, because I'm very familiar with that puss. As an ISFP, Hero Lamb, you countervalue SI. You don't think that previous experience with this person, familiarity with this person should be a necessary prerequisite to comfort in engaging with them. But for many of us, it is a necessary prerequisite. You know what I'm saying, dog? I think, you know, for people who have a strong relationship with emotions, which is to say, they understand clearly what emotions they're feeling, they get the fact that this dating process is necessarily a bit of an emotional roller coaster, no matter how comfortable you are at it. And they like that emotional roller coaster quality of it. People who are good at dating. They know how to ride the roller coaster without getting sick. They understand that there are highs and lows in the roller coaster, but you're not going to die in the lows, and you're not going to heaven in the highs. For people who have a terribly weak relationship with their emotions, dating is just this thing that's fraught with danger. Also, I suppose for women, especially for women looking for a relationship, dating is mostly trying to avoid the guys who are very good at banging girls who are looking for a long-term partner by being ambiguous about their own intentions, and by taking advantage of the fact that it's true that nobody knows that they want to be in a relationship with you after a couple of dates. But, in reality, those guys are probably like, I'm not looking for a relationship really, but if the perfect thing comes along, maybe. But they don't present it as in those words exactly to the chick. And of course, the other thing is the chick doesn't want somebody who knows too soon that they want to be in a relationship with you either. So they're looking for prudence. It's a very complicated economy, dating. It depends on how clearly you know what you want, really. And it's hard to know clearly what you want unless you either have a good relationship with your feelings or have a conscious relationship with your own experience and have made a bunch of mistakes and have learned a bunch of things from that, Hi, Jazzy. Yeah, if it's IRL, that kind of cold approach, Mr. Generic, I don't think works anymore, because chicks except for, I mean, it is the case that if you've got a shit ton of riz, you might be able to pull that off. Like, you'd have to have a very smooth engagement with somebody who also, in a way that they perceive as very safe, convey to them how safe you are, and then have some quick little trick to get them to ask for your contact information. You could say like, you're English, right? If I happen to drop this business card here on this counter, you'd have my number. Oops, too late, I've done it. Ta-ta, cheerio, I'm off for tea and crumpets. If you do it like that, you can probably pull it off, Mr. Generic. That's kind of one of those strewing seeds things. The problem is that people get hurt all the time, People get hurt in romantic things all the time. Oh, you're Scottish. Okay. Well, convert what I just said to a Scottish thing. I'm Scottish. I've got to go. I've got to go be a pirate. Here's my business card. Zoe Nicole, hi. So I mean, the thing is, if you want to try to do kind of like actual IRL meeting of chicks in the store or something, then you're gonna have to be pretty. Uh, you're gonna have to be. It's gonna have to be like executing a macro, right? Uh, I engage this chick with some playful engagement that naturally occurs, and I give her my business card in some kind of meet cute way, you know. And then you let her decide whether she wants to call you or not. There's no way you're gonna probably get it go the other way unless you're super giga chad, you know. And if you are giga chad, then you wouldn't be worrying about this stuff. I agree with you, Mr. Generic, that all women do not like being approached unless it's under their terms by men in their dating demographic who are apparently single, you know? Like I could uh potentially approach a woman in various ways that wouldn't be considered a younger woman in various ways that wouldn't be considered creepy or anything. They don't discriminate that because in terms of creepy and predatory, there are some such males. They take preventative measures against such males, but but well, no, that's not going to solve the problem, Mr. Generic, because there's not a general problem. What you have are a bunch of fragile human beings trying to find connections with each other in a complicated dating economy that's fraught with emotional peril. You know, that's what you have. You got people like Hero who are naturals in this landscape, and they're just like, "What do you mean fraught with emotional peril? Dating's just getting to know people. Dating's just being yourself. Just treating chicks like other human beings, talking to them, whatever. And then, one thing leads to another." Okay, well, yeah, okay. So you got people like Hero Lamb, you got people like Mr. Generic who are trying to solve what they see as a systemic problem of some sort because the dating economy is as it is. And we're trying to find fairness in a dating economy that doesn't care about fairness at all. But at the end of the day, what we have are, instead of men and women behaving as men and women, we have individual human beings, a bunch of individual human beings who are fragile, trying to find connections with each other, and a dating landscape that's fraught with emotional peril. That's the best way to put it. So, incels aren't really mad at chicks. They're terrified of them. And that horrible bitch who cheated on you isn't really evil and winning. She's deeply traumatized. That's why she behaves like that. That's the reality of it. We all have so many expectations placed upon us by the world, by ourselves, by our engagement with the world and the narratives of the world. We have so many. The times are changing, and they're also staying the same. We have so many things that we expect ourselves to uphold. We are relentlessly told, mostly indirectly, but plenty of times directly, by the world for all of our lives. We are told there is something wrong with you. I never meet people. I work alone. I don't drink. I hate apps. What else is there? The gym. Well, I mean, like, So the thing is, Mr. Generic, what do you do? If you just work, be alone, not drink. If you could all choose one family you can relate to, which would it be as adults? Leave the children out of this for a minute. I don't even understand what that question means. Choose a family you relate to? No, Gregory and his guys is not based off a real person. It was written in, it was the hook part was just written as a vocal thing many years prior to the rest of the song being written, which I wrote the words just so that they matched with the words in the chorus part. I mean, the bottom line is if you want to find people to date and are approaching it from a outcome oriented perspective, you can make it happen. No problem. You could use the strategy I just told you, right? Go on a dating app, message the chick, tell her, you can even, if you want to really lie, you be like, I normally don't do this. I was looking at your profile and I was just absolutely so interested in you. All right, you're Scottish. I was so interested in you. and and I happen to be in this area near wherever it says you're around. And how about you meet me at this restaurant at this time? I'm buying. You'll get some kind of action from that. But if you just want to complain about it instead of doing anything to make anything happen, then nothing's ever going to happen. Well, don't approach much younger women. How about that? Why don't you do what I said? Go on like OK Cupid or whatever other app you want to go on, that Plenty of Fish or something. I don't really know about the dating apps. Um, and do what I just said. And here I am is right here. If you're going to engage with women in a non-explicitly dating setting, like a dating app is explicitly dating, so you can engage with them, like I said, in which case you don't have to, you can bypass all this like gray area shit, right? Just bypass that entirely. Half my own age, then add 7 years. Half my own age is 26 or 27. Add 7 years to that, 34. No, this doesn't work when you're 20 years old, by the way. No, maybe it does. Half your age in 7 years. Maybe it does, actually. 17-year-old going to 20-year-old, maybe. 18 going to 16-year-old. That's a good rule. I think that works pretty well, Melissa. I'm impressed. I've never heard that rule before. I've given you the solution, Mr. Generic. You don't have to worry about that gray area that occurs when you approach somebody in real life when you cold approach, right? You don't have to worry about that. You can cold approach the way I suggested in a dating app. It won't be perceived as creepy. It's perfectly natural. And then you can take it from there. At some point, you're going to have to accept the fact that you have to meet and talk with a woman not knowing whether she's really going to be a prospective romantic partner for you or not, until after you've engaged with her for a while. And you shouldn't try to make her a romantic partner with you unless you really like her. Dating is not a sort of thing where there's a want and a solvency. It's more like a state of being, and dating is a symptom of good social hygiene. It makes sense, but I don't think it's correct. You can't, Mr. Generic. You can't be sure. You can be sure potentially if you approach somebody and initiate a conversation that you are careful about reading their body language, and if they're uncomfortable, you withdraw in a graceful fashion as soon as possible. Right? I mean, you have to be deft at the arts of engaging other people. If you aren't deft at that, then you have to set aside that range of possible approaches that are only safely executed by people who are socially deft. If you aren't that socially deft, then you need to use an approach like mine. And that's okay. Not everybody gets to use every tool in the world, right? Yeah, and people are by and large kind, good, just, righteous, etc. It is the case, I would say, that on explicit dating apps, once you get older, like me, then the other people who are older, there's a decent chance you're going to find people who keep popping back into the app pool. So, if you're looking for a long term relationship and you find one through one of those apps, it's probably not going to be with one of those people that keeps popping back into that pool because there's something about them that they don't really settle down. They keep dating forever or something. And if you don't want to use an app, then like an environment like talking with famous people is not a bad environment. But if you're talking about if you're complaining about the dating economy a lot, that's few chicks find that like, oh my God, I love the way he complains about the unfairnesses of the dating economy. That gets me sopping wet every time. That'd be an interesting subpopulation of women who are incredibly turned on by incels. The more incel you are, the more attracted she is to you. Oh my God, you absolutely despise women, don't you? And you're terrified of them, but you'll never admit it. I'm not scared of women. Oh yeah, so good. It's like Woody Allen said in one of his movies. One of his lines is, "Wouldn't it be great if needy were a turn on?" Something like that. Maybe it wasn't Woody Allen. I don't remember who wrote that. Somebody wrote that. It would be more fair if chicks were most turned on by guys who most needed to be wanted by chicks. If that were the case, then everybody would be neutrally attractive. Because as soon as you started getting chicks, you would no longer need them, and chicks would be turning their attraction to some bigger loser than you. Like reverse hypergamy. That would really have thrown society's technological advancement into a tailspin, probably, if we had reverse hypergamy. Like, where are you going, Julie? Sorry, bro, you're getting too successful in your inventions and stuff. but I'm about to create the printing press. Well, if you do, you're losing this sweet tang. Okay, never mind then. Well, the key thing, one key element though, remember, Mr. Generic, is that the biggest correlate with failure in life is problem admiration. If you're more interested in admiring the problem than in getting past the barrier, working around the problem, solving the problem, or whatever, then you're already succeeding at what you want to do, which is talk about how insurmountable the problem is. Well, it is giving, not the chat in general, Goblin. It's specifically Mr. Generic, I think, who's giving up those vibes a bit. And I'm trying to address that directly and kindly as well, you know, that here I am. I get it that being natural is the optimal thing, right? Some people can be natural in engaging with another person sooner than other people can. Let's say, and this happens with me in typing sessions and stuff. Some people come in, plenty of people come into typing sessions with me or other video conference things, and they're like, at first a little like starstruck, which is strange because I'm just some regular guy on YouTube, but and then after a little while they get natural and comfortable and start talking with me. But the problem with dating is the touching stakes involved in it make it such that it's difficult to, you know, like successful dating, you don't get calmer as it goes along until the sex, right? It gets more kind of chemistry and electric and stuff. And things are going well. But the point is, for men who are like beta males like me, or I mean, I don't want to, I don't want to like take away their, I don't want to, I don't want to fail to validate their lack that I don't have, right? I'm not saying I'm, by the time I got with Rachel, I was plenty good with chicks, you know, but I still identify as who I always was before. For beta males, the goal is to have that, to be in a have a girlfriend or something that you feel super comfortable with, who looks at you like she loves you, and where you can relax and fulfill that role of man in a sexual partnership, you know. But getting to the spot where they're comfortable happens after traversing that minefield of getting to know them. You're you're saying be natural and like getting to know them minefield. Well, that also is a good goal, but it's easier said than done for people who are in their heads, get stuck in their heads a lot, you know? Hooking up organically means that nobody sprays any pesticides on you while you're having sex. Right. What Hero Lamb is saying is correct. But what I'm saying is piggybacking off of that too. This place has the potential to actually provide you a better alternative than complaining about reality But it requires you to first and foremost set aside the frame level stuff, right? Like that here are problems implicit in the structure of things. Set aside those concerns for a second. Because the underlying problem that everybody who has trouble with getting chicks has is they think of women as women. In reality, each person you're dealing with is an individual human being who has her own set of things she's looking for, things that are red flags, things that she definitely doesn't like, So it's like, as somebody who talks a lot, I basically used to think that what I need to do in order to be an acceptable partner for a woman is curtail the ways in which I was different from other people so I could be more like a regular person so that I wouldn't be such a burden to be with. I felt that way in part because I didn't have a good history of picking good women to be with who actually liked me very much. So I learned from my first wife that being like Eric was super annoying. And that even her infant child, when she acted like Eric, she would say things like, "Don't be Eric Jr. like that." So she really didn't like me. I didn't like her either. But the point is, she probably didn't internalize as much as I did that I was unlikable. And Frog Rock, you and Hero Lamb are cut from the same cloth. Uh, and it's like I was with my second wife, and she really didn't like my, quirkiness, creativeness, divergent ideas. And because I was a drunk for much of that marriage, she successfully, like, policed my self-expression, convinced me that I had to do that in order to be an acceptable being in my marriage or in the world. And Kimberly spent our entire relationship basically trying to generate lasting emotional trauma in me. She was extremely emotionally abusive. And I left that relationship way worse off than I'd left any previous relationship in terms of, like, she just, you do not know. It's like she hit me right in the polar all the time. My place of least resistance is my feelings. So if she said something hurtful to me, my response to it was to evaluate the statement for correctness. She, of course, had been abused as a child with borderline personality disorder. And so it's not exactly her fault that she was that way. No, cheating is not normalized. It's not at all. Nobody thinks cheating's okay. It is true that increasingly non-monogamous relationships are normalized, but it's still absolutely society-wide norm that if you are in a committed relationship and you cheat, you are the bad guy. You have no excuses, etc. Likes lemons typology. Dislikes cheese, long-winded answers. Well, you don't want to be with me, do you, Elaine? You're going to get plenty of cheese and long-winded answers. You should be allowed to marry yourself for the tax benefits. I'm glad I found Rachel too. And I think Rachel's glad she found me. And I think that at the same time, we're both still, in this relationship in an ongoing state of fear and and carrying a lot of trauma around. With each of us is carrying a lot of trauma around. So when I say I'm jealous of Rachel's past, what I really mean is that I'm afraid that, like my previous partners, she's going to I'm going to realize at some point that I'm not okay the way I am, and that because I catastrophize the past, that it's going to be I'm not okay the way I am because her previous partner Mia was so much better than I am at Mia. Like I know one of her previous partners was in a band, and I was scared to ask, but eventually I did, and I had to determine whether or not she thought he was a better artist than me. So no, not healthy fear, And Rachel frequently seeks reassurance. I would if she weren't so good about reassuring. I would frequently seek it as well. And we're both honestly good people who are honestly committed to each other, so we are happy to provide that reassurance. Um, it doesn't bother me at all, but it's representative of a relationship that's burdened by fear and past trauma. Like in my very first relationship, which I ruined by cheating, which is the worst thing I've ever done. It's the one thing I would take back if I could take back one thing. But I didn't understand how horrible it was until I did it, I guess. Uh, Before that relationship was ruined, there was a comfort in my being in a relationship, of a a naive certainty that we could both be totally trusted and that we both love each other, etc. In the aftermath of decades of damage, then I'm not in my current relationship as comfortably, and neither is Rachel, as either of us was probably in our very first relationship until we learned to be betrayed. That's what my song Jesus People is about. Jesus People says, the lyrics to it say, but people aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing forever is lost. Maybe naivete ought not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. People aren't Jesus once they're betrayed. The easy believing is lost. Maybe naivete ought not to be saved, but the wise pay a terrible cost. Great lyrics, very true. Mr. Generic said, I genuinely wish I was gay. It would be way less complicated. Correct, Alex T. Mr. Generic, you're not lost. It's not too late. That's another thing I was thinking about today. People say, it's never too late. Sometimes it is too late for some things. But, like, I was thinking this morning about how it genuinely was too late for my dad. My mom was still biologically alive, but he had lost her. She was in a nursing home, couldn't communicate really anymore, was just a skeletal remains of her former self. And he had lost a lot of his physical capabilities. He could barely hear, his eyes were going, he lost his physical mobility when he broke his ribs. And you might say, it's never too late. He could heal from those ribs, wait for his eye surgery to improve his eyes a bit, wait for his wife to die, and meet a new woman. Incorrect. He had created his entire story, and his tool function was SI. There's no conceivable way of him escaping a lifetime he lived and reinventing himself at 90 with diminished physical capacities in a variety of areas, and with his entire identity linked to a lifetime spent with this woman, right? And so, as a consequence, he took his own life. And it was, I think, the right decision for him at that moment. Absolutely the right decision. It would be incorrect to tell him it's never too late. However, for most of us, in most circumstances that aren't like that one, it is the truth that it's not too late. I thought back when I quit drinking when I was 42, ages 40, 41, I spent telling myself it's too late for me to quit drinking. Right? It's too late now. I'm too deep into this. I'm just going to drink myself to death. And hurry up. I'm ready already to go because I'm so deeply, I hate myself so much and I'm so ashamed of myself for being such a drunk. But then I quit at 42, and the idea at 42 is too late for something is ridiculous. Now I'm 53, I still haven't had a drink since then, and my life is as different as anything could possibly be from what it was at that time, right? I'm a couple relationships past then, and I don't do that work anymore. My parents are dead. I live in this house in the mountains. Everything's incredibly different. And at the time before I quit drinking, I did not have a YouTube channel or a community or so many people to talk to like this or anything. And now this is like the axle of my life. So it's not too late, and life can change dramatically on a dime. Prior to meeting me, Rachel was in a decade-long shitty situation where she was being inadequately treated for a mental illness and essentially exploited as a cash cow by the medical facility while she was being more or less dehumanized by a succession of increasingly petty Skinner style behaviorist bullshit being done to her by her mom, especially. She had been stuck there, and it was just getting worse, and there was no clear light at the end of the tunnel or anything. And then she flew out to LA, and now we're married, and she lives here, and she's totally empowered, and everything's different. And she's cured of her mental illness. We hired a good doctor, and he cured her like that. And she's perfectly treated. She's perfectly sane, Rachel. She gets to do what she wants. She gets to smoke as much pot as she wants without getting abused for it by her parents in this medical facility. And she won all of those battles with just like, fuck you all. Bottom of the ninth. Grand slam. I win. Fuck all y'all. That's what she was able to do on a dime. It's like one day it was the past I was describing. Then I said, hey, let's talk on a video conference. A few calls later, she bought a ticket to LA, and the rest is history. So what I'm saying is, problem admiration is the number one thing to prevent you from experiencing dramatic changes, either sudden or gradual. If you're busy admiring the problem, and what a terribly difficult problem it is, how unsolvable it is, if you're full of yeah buts, then that will prevent you from experiencing life. Yeah, but is my least favorite 2 words. Here's the solution to your problem. Yeah, but that won't work because, well, how about this solution to your problem? Yeah, but You just want to admire problems. You don't want solutions. You don't want to gain optimism, clarity, joy, freedom from truth. You want it to pin you in, justify your misery. I don't like that. I do it too sometimes. I mean, we're all human. We all do that sometimes, right? Like, instead of solving my problem, I'm going to complain about it. And the problem, the reason why that happens is because there are plenty of things which are unfair, bad, wrong, unjust, shitty, whatever in the world. And if we can't complain about it, then just like what, it's like just take it up the ass and just live with it. I don't think so, motherfuckers. I am going to complain about it. So I get it, Complaining's empowering when that's the only thing that you can do to change things. I complain about all kinds of shit. But like I don't mess around with politics very much because I plan to do something about it. Until then, I don't want it to occupy my attention because it's so toxic. Believe me, I don't want to be an advocate of relentless toxic positivity, I think that's bullshit too. You don't manifest whatever it is you're thinking about. If you think negative, you're going to manifest negative stuff, and that's bullshit too, right? Your emotions should be consistent with your situation. If your situation is shitty, you should be like unhappy about it, angry, whatever. You shouldn't be, you know what? Okay, so I guess now I have to do this with this unreasonable extra burden you're putting on me. I'll figure out a way to make it happen. No, obviously not. So there are a lot of tricky lines to walk. There is goodness, truth, and justice in complaining about bullshit. However, when you're talking about the dating economy, that's not one of those areas. Because ultimately, complaining about bullshit in the dating economy is making the same mistake that will continue to cause a poor relationship in the dating economy, which is there are no such thing as women. Nobody ever dates women. You date a woman, a specific woman, who's a specific person. And if you remember first and foremost that she's not an example of the bullshit you don't like, that will be helpful. That she's just a regular person like you who's probably fragile and scared and who probably could have, could be crushed if you said the wrong thing, just like you could, There should be a dating app where people can leave reviews on people so they can improve. I like that idea. Okay, well, Mr. Generic, it is true that finding a woman is not possible for guys who say finding a woman is not possible for guys like me. As long as you continue saying that, it's true. In that regard, the manifestors are correct. You have correctly ascertained what you are manifesting when you say that. You continue to insist that it's not possible for guys like you to meet a woman and have a healthy, happy relationship with her, then you will refuse to implement any of the actual actionable suggestions that I've made. Like, do what I said with the dating app, try it. But no, you don't want to try that. You want to be the victim of a world that doesn't afford you enough reproductive viability. I mean, I've been there. I've been in that situation where I said to myself, I guess I'm just not reproductively viable. But the difference between me and you, I guess, is that at that point in time, I did have plenty of interactions with people all the time in the world. I went to parties and stuff like that. I just didn't believe, even though the chick was obviously hitting on me, I just thought, oh, she must be trying to trick me or something. She couldn't possibly like me. Well, I'm glad you're here. Look, remember, you're here saying this maybe because you want us to validate it and go, yeah, you're right, man. You're never maybe, but if you really want us to validate that, you'd go to some incel community. I think what you really want is some reassurance that, yeah, I get it. Sometimes life is incredibly painful when it seems that, it's like the Doors said, women are wicked when you're unwanted. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. And we're in a world where sometimes it can seem like you're structurally excluded. But what I would say is I give you the same advice I give myself about something totally different. When you start thinking about how, oh, I'm not reproductively viable, instead of saying that stuff, say, I am in pain. And I told myself, instead of telling myself, saying, I hate myself, I wish I were dead, those two expressions specifically are things that I have a long-standing habit of saying, but I'm recognizing that I say it every time I feel pain, particularly about the past. And that instead of lying to myself and saying, I hate myself, I'm going to say the truth. I feel pain. And that sucks. And what's even worse is I feel pain and I feel vulnerable, and that sucks. And the only thing to do is to continue forward on this scary path that has already caused me to feel so much pain and vulnerability. And that sucks too. But at least Eric understands me and doesn't just condemn me for being an incel, but gets it, gets how painful it is to find yourself somehow, one way or another, not reproductively viable. You have sex with whom? If you're having sex with women, then obviously you're meeting them in some way, right? Unless you're having sex with prostitutes, but I don't know if the thing is, Scott, and also it's important to note this. Maybe Mr. Generic is saying, I don't want to just have sex, which I can do with a prostitute. I want to have a relationship with a woman. So it is the case also that when you're engaging in thinking about dating and stuff, you first need to determine what do you really want, and most of us don't really know that. It's like, do you want to get laid? Well, most of us probably have a thought of, if I'm single, there might be circumstances in which that would be good and would be fine. But you should know in advance whether or not you're ultimately looking for a relationship or just short-term stuff, Okay, well, Mr. Generic, I don't know if that makes you not an incel or not, but it may. I don't know what that's. I don't know anything about that. I've never done that, so well, I don't really have anything to say about it, I guess. Yeah, love's not unattainable, But most of us have to be in relationships with people we don't love for years before we end up with the right person. I mean, we're in relationships with people we do love because we're good relationship partners, not because we're naturally ultra compatible with them. And for people like me who have a very unconscious relationship with his feelings, or Rachel who also has an unconscious relationship with her feelings, they're not as unconscious. I'm not flexing. I mean, flexing about not using sex workers, it's not a flex. It's just, I don't, well, I mean, I never really felt it until I got with Rachel either, or maybe my first girlfriend. But when I first started talking with Rachel, I found myself in a state of limerence. Like, I when I got off the phone or got off the video call or whatever, I couldn't stop thinking about her. I just felt like, you know, like they show people fall in love in the cartoons and stuff. Obviously, that state of emotional arousal doesn't persist forever. I don't know how you could even begin to function with that kind of state of emotional all the time, you know? Love is a giddy feeling, but it's more than that, because for people like me who don't who don't have a very conscious relationship with their feelings, love is commitment. Love is a lack of problems, right? Like being in a relationship with Rachel for years and us not regularly butting heads here, revealing that we're not really on the same page, but instead the opposite happening, where like, oh shit, here's a spot where I butted heads with people in the past. Wait, we're on the same page here. We're on the same page here. We're on the same page here. Your FI polar is so good that you feel fewer and fewer emotions as time goes by. When you get older, like me, you'll come to understand that FI is a merciless bitch. A merciless bitch. And the thing is, there's no way to avoid its horribleness. You just have to pay the piper. You have to feel through the feelings. And you can't just be like, I just ignore that for years and then it'll go away. And you still have to feel through those feelings. You're just enjoying the FI polar of youth, which is much more powerful than the FI polar of old man. Now it's just a value I wish I had always upheld and often didn't. Right. Keep your hands clean, you know? Don't accumulate memories of your own fucked up shit, you know? If you're not feeling enough love, Mr. Generic, maybe you should take Jackson's advice. Jackson indicates that the only time he feels love is when he's on Molly. I'm looking for my friend Molly. Anybody seen her? My other friend Dimitri. Oh yeah, well you're lucky, Elaine. You're lucky. ESFP, that'd be giddy fools the entire time. Maybe ENFP too. You feel loved every day? By the Lord? By the Lord Jesus Christ? And you're practicing the same sort of agape as Jesus himself by loving sex workers. Well, Jesus loved Mary Magdalene, even though she was a whore. And okay, well, you just believe in God, you want to be a deist, fine. Fine. Do you believe in Old Testament God, wrathful God? Like, Fuck the New Testament. I want God to literally punish those fucking heathens by having bears maul them. Don't call me Baldy. I'm gonna bring the bears down from the mountains and instruct them maul with a U. I hate apps. What else is there? Well, you're on a wonderful app right now called YouTube. Like, look at all the human engagement you're getting here. Granted, I'm not a very sexy lady, but do you see how you and I are connecting? We're talking. You're using words. I'm using words. This isn't an app. This is a human being. Okay? The app is just the same thing as like a letter you wrote in the olden days and mailed off to go to the mailbox of your friend. Except it's much faster. There's this, Mr. Generic. There's this. This is the Church of Truth right here. The Church of Truth and goodness and righteousness and upholding the value of not hurting people's feelings. Because people are fragile. When they get their feelings hurt, people are, even though we're not as mean to each other as we used to be IRL, like I think, they police kids better in school now for bullying and stuff than they used to. But people online can be quite awful, Women all have insecurities about their appearance and their bodies and stuff. And yet when Rachel's streaming, without any exception, there will be multiple people come through the stream and try to nag her in some fashion, make her feel bad about herself, body shame her, whatever. It's like, why are we so horrible to each other? Why are people so horrible? But they're not like that in real life. Like, it's not like people come up to Rachel in real life and say some horribly insulting thing to her out of the blue. Nobody became hard by being bullied, Jimmy B. Okay? People become traumatized and broken by being bullied. It is true that if you hit the sweet spot, in other words, you get a certain amount of stressor from the external environment, but not too much, enough for you to rise up and defeat it, then that's empowering and a growth arc for you. And to some extent, that kind of happened with me. But no, I don't think that's human nature at all, Mr. Generic. I am genuinely a nice person who genuinely feels a great deal of distress and stuff when faced with cruelty, badness, controllingness, toxicity of any sort, If I unfairly snap at Rachel, or even like raise my voice to her or something, I'll feel bad about it. On the other hand, people like Jamie B, who says kids are coddled too much in school, I have no problem slapping them around the room. You guys get the fuck out. First of all, youth prison camp, unless consensually agreed to by the children in a truly fully informed way, does not represent an environment in which anybody should have to be, right? Except for criminals who are in prison. You should not have to non-consensually stay with people who are abusive towards you, like peers who are abusive towards you, with no remedy like, I'm going to go home. I'm not going to stay in this fucking place. In that environment, obviously, horrible damage is done to people. Because we take children, people to whom we should least do this, and force them, without any informed consent at all, to go to youth prison camp and learn shit that's not remotely individuated to them. In other words, they have no agency in the matter. They don't get to learn what's interesting to them or what they are good at or whatever. They got to get this standardized package of bullshit. And then there's no genuine attainment of justice among children. Like, if an adult hits me, they'll get arrested and go to jail. If a bully hits me day after day after day, nothing happens, right? So probably either you were bullied or you were a bully. One of the two. If you were bullied, you're trying to justify your own past to yourself by saying it made you strong. That's fine. Good for you. It made you strong. But you should also recognize that the only use of power that's justified is in defense of the weak, you know, and egalitarianism should be the rule of the day. I don't care who the fuck you are. You need to be respectful to everybody else, you know, unless you're scolding them like I scold people for being fucks. It's fine. Look, you got it. It takes a paladin to fight a holy war. It takes a paladin to hunt monsters without becoming one, you know? I was bullied some too, right? And I even did a little bullying myself. And those memories of me being the bully are the most painful of all. I don't take any shit from anyone either as a result of getting bullied some too. But note, Jimmy B, how horrible it is. As an adult, when you're ready to finally respond to those fucks, now they're not doing it anymore. And you're just a hair trigger waiting to go off on someone who wasn't responsible for all the trauma you incurred. You know? I get it. Like, I was much more a bullying victim than I was a bully in my childhood. And as an adult, I'm much more a bully than I am a bullying victim. Ain't nobody gonna put any shit past me. You know, nobody's gonna take advantage of me. But a better world is one in which our children don't need to worry about being traumatized by their peers. And accordingly, as adults, we have a casual, naive assumption that everyone's good because we had such a wonderful childhood. That's how it should be. Anxiety is one of my oldest friends. Fist fighting naked? Well, fist fighting naked's fine. It's the same as fist fighting with clothes on. As long as you're fist fighting, you don't have to worry. As long as somebody could punch you in the wiener, I guess. And then they have to stop the fight. Stop the fight, stop the fight. He touched his wiener. That's why the Greeks eventually started putting on clothes for the Olympics. Yeah, people are wary, but not everyone's so wary these days. It's just, you know, you probably convey a certain intensity. you seem to have a certain intensity about the subject, and you know, it's horrible, right? Dating, the way that it works is horrible. The way that a man needs to convey that both they have no particular interest in, nor certainly any need for, this woman's attention, but do find her kind of charming and might be receptive to furthering engagement if she's bringing the pole. But if not, if you're not feeling a decent amount of pull on you, you're very busy doing important things. I'm very busy over here, over here, over here. I've got a lot of stuff going on. I've got a lot of people around me. I've got underlings at work, etc. It may not be true, but that's sort of the general vibe you're supposed to convey. I'm kind, just, relaxed, important, powerful, and wise. I don't need you, but I think you're great and interesting. And while normally I'm too busy and important to give even a second glance to a woman, you're just so lovely. I can't help but glance a bit. But I know obviously you're taken, and I'm busy. And here's my business card. But I get it. You know, neither of us have time for this sort of thing because we're both so successful and important and busy all the time. But then, of course, to actually be in a relationship, you can't be that person. Someone's like, I'm gonna kick your ass after school. It's like, whoa, 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 easy there. You need to wine me and dine me first. My best experience with bullying was in middle school. There was this kid who was bullying me by like trying to stand in front of my locker and not let me get to my shit and stuff. And one day I just got super annoyed and I just get in front of my locker and I just reached out and started choking him against the locker. And he's like, and then a teacher came over and made me stop. Well, he never bullied me again. You know, it's like in my memories, what I wish I had done when I was a kid is whenever somebody bullied me or whatever, I just be like, okay, cool. And then just lie in wait. And when they came by, I just hit them in the knees with a baseball bat as hard as I could, you know? And then the school would be like, hey, you broke that kid's legs. And I'd be like, hey, this youth prison camp does not deserve any behavior from me. You're failing to do your jobs as guards here. This student here traumatized me with his bullying, so I reciprocated, of course. Now, would you like to solve this problem, or would you like me to continue to behave this way? Yeah, you get no respect till you fight. That's true, absolutely. And for those of us who got bullied the right amount, quote unquote, that eventually that happened, and then all of a sudden you're like empowered by it, right? It shouldn't happen at all, obviously. It wouldn't happen if we didn't force children into random groups and make them hang out together. The KKK is going to get me? Well, they might, but you know, I like to believe that a strong black man like me these days can live in a nice community and not experience any cross burnings. Okay? That's what I'd like to believe. And that's true for sure among men, right? Like men and boys, it's like boys don't understand what's going on exactly. But among men, it's the case that you have kind of a duty to establish your boundaries. You know, if somebody's crossing them, it rarely happens that somebody crosses them. But let's say I'm in real life and somebody starts coming up and hitting on my wife in a very obvious fashion, kind of ignoring me, as happens in the live stream when she's streaming, even if I'm in the chat. Well, I would obviously have a duty to be like, okay, you need to step back, home fries, and get out of here. Get out of here, Baldy. It doesn't mean I need to throw blows with the guy, but it means because we live in a civil society and we're both adults that I can establish other kinds of boundaries and have them enforced. Oh, no, Mr. Generic. Listen, my greatest success, if I were to attain it in dealing with somebody who was crossing my boundaries, would be to get them to hit me. Because then they get arrested and I go taunt them in jail. And I get to testify against them. I get to testify stuff like, well, you know, I was basically baiting him I figured he was dumb, but I didn't know if he was dumb enough to actually hit me. Turned out he was. So here we are. Now he gets to go to jail. That's called winning. I want them to hit me, Mr. Generic. No, that's called ENTP strategy. I will win every exchange of words 100% of the time. Because nobody can fucking lay a finger on me in that regard. So what I want to do is beat them so badly with my words that they are so infuriated that they commit a crime against me by striking me. Then I not only win the exchange, I win the life. Now you get fired from your job because you have to go to court on that day because you assaulted me. So fuck off and suck it, motherfucker. Rot in jail for as long as they can possibly put you in there. I win, and I will go visit you in jail and remind you of it often. People cannot lay a word finger on me as right. I'm not going to hit them. As soon as they sock me, someone's calling the cops. Shit's getting crazy, you know. On the other hand, here at the house, if somebody's trying to like break into my house, I just shoot him in the fucking head. I don't care. My home is my castle. Well, Mr. Generic, I don't live in England with no guns, right? We have a Second Amendment here, so try to break into my house or something, I'll just shoot you in the head. I will not even feel bad about it. I won't even have nightmares about it. I'll just be like, that's what he gets. Man's home's his castle. Well, there's no way I'm going to be beat up without defending myself. So in other words, if he sucker punches me and then tries to like jump on me and shit and continue to beat me up, I will try to do whatever I can to prevent myself from incurring physical damage. And that includes offense, obviously. But I'm not likely to win that fight against most people because, first of all, not only am I not particularly cut, yes, I'm tall, I'm 6'5", but I don't have particularly fast twitch muscles or anything. And also I'm 53 years old. What if the guy's 20 years younger than me? You know, I'm not in particularly great shape. And do I want to devote myself to becoming physically intimidating when the person I might encounter who's going to be potentially crossing my boundaries is almost certainly going to be doing so with language or a failure to act, like, you know, trying to avoid accountability or something like that. You can you can get all roided out or whatever and prepare yourself fully prepared for one of those childhood bullying experiences. This time I won't be bullied. You won't be bullied that way anymore. Being the biggest and strongest isn't a way to avoid assholes being dicks in adulthood. It only is in childhood. Adults bully each other with words. I want you to remember something. Well, no, I mean, I let people's words affect my emotion all the time. But if the emotion it elicits is anger, it is true that if I get too angry, it's counterproductive. A little bit of anger, though, is actually helpful for me because it doesn't affect what I'm going to say. My word choice decisions on what sentences I say is not impacted by my emotions. The delivery is impacted, though. So if I'm too mad, it comes out as like quaveriness in my voice and stuff, and that's not a good way to win a verbal exchange. But if I'm just a little bit mad, we're like, oh, no, you're dead. Not. I want to tell you about team. T stands for team. Everybody's on my team. Anyways, I'm in charge of the team, and M. Oh my God, would you shut the fuck up? I start swearing more online, but not in the real world. Because if you swear at people in the real world, you immediately lose the exchange. I just swear at people around here, like, fuck you, go fuck yourself. But like if you're mad at the pharmacist and you curse at them, then you absolutely lose that exchange. So when I would go down to the CVS in Arcadia and make that pharmacist's life a living hell, I never used a curse word. Sometimes I raise my voice, and that also is ill-advised generally in the real world. But I'm expressive. I wear my heart on my sleeve, If you piss me off, you're going to see that I'm pissed off. If you hurt my feelings, you're going to see it right away on my face. Of course, if you hurt my feelings, you pretty much have to be somebody pretty close to me, like Rachel, Delilah. It's pretty hard for most people to hurt my feelings because I keep people at an arm's length, Why does this keep doing this? The messaging part on the phone keeps like getting stuck in the past. I keep reading chats from a long time ago. We swear even in friendly interactions? Yeah, now I did. Now I got my ears folded like this. I wanted to be more Will Smith-like. To the pharmacist, sir, I'm most displeased with the events that unfolded here today. Reply, sir, this is a Wendy's, not a pharmacy. Reply, Wendy's nuts across your face. That would be fine. Being a Karen is not good. But it's also the case that sometimes you got to be a squeaky wheel, right? And it's also the case that me not getting my drugs is not good. I want my drugs on time. And I wasn't getting them from the pharmacy on time. Now, it may be the case that there was a national shortage on Adderall, but it's also the case that I'm supposed to get my drugs today and I don't have them. And I'm mad about that. I'm petty and entitled. So somebody's getting their fucking ass handed to them. It's fine to complain when you're complaining to somebody who has some accountability for the problem. Then they need to either get their fucking head out of their ass and get me my fucking drugs, or stand here and listen to me shame them. Darren? Oh, is that a male Karen? Is it Darren? Call a male Karen an Eric. That's what they call. A male Karen is an Eric. The thing is, I'm not very Karen-y 99% of the time. If you're a problem and it's interfering with something I want, then, like I said, you need to get your fucking head out of your ass and solve this problem or get out of my way or whatever. Because I'm not happy, and therefore nobody gets to be happy. Scott M., the pharmacist, is not the lowest ranking employee in the pharmacy. In fact, he's the only person I can possibly hold accountable for my failure to get my drugs on time. It's not my doctor's fault. It might be someone else's fault, but the pharmacist is the only person I can legitimately go after, right? So that's why I did it in Arcadia to the specific male pharmacist that I'm thinking of. And that's why I did it in CVS in Oakhurst to the specific male pharmacist who was constantly blowing smoke up my ass and thinking his little African charm, because he was like from Africa, you know, like he had a Wakanda accent, you know. Thinking his charming African guy act was going to be adequate to solve to cover for his fuck ups. He was sadly mistaken. He was also very good at pivoting and posturing that I was the problem because I was getting agitated. But that only worked one time. Then I went in there cool and calm as possible. And I just laid it into him in quiet words. So fuck that motherfucker. He deserved every bit of shaming I heaped on his horrible little face. Some guy tried to lecture you about standing in line etiquette. Yeah, well, I wish that kind of shit would happen to me, right? People seem to more or less can tell, don't fuck with that guy. More or less they can tell that. Occasionally it happens, right? But I mean, I don't ever have to bust anybody's chops anymore. Now I live in Mariposa. It's just I have all these war skills developed from life and decades in Los Angeles dealing with bullshit, you know. And no place to use them anymore. Now that we got the pharmacy out of Oakhurst, which is Madera County, and up here in Mariposa County, I get my drugs on time every single month on the day I'm supposed to get them. What's up with that, right? I still hear other people have trouble getting their drugs on time. My cult is not being a good cult because it's just like, you know, like when I was a teacher in debate, when I was with debate teams, debate classes anyway, I'd start the class by saying to the students, especially if they were new, I'd say things like, okay, one of my jobs here is to teach all of you to tell me to fuck off. Remember, I'm trying to help you win debate tournaments. I'm not the boss of you. I don't decide what you do or control you. If you don't want to be here, go outside. Is what he's doing right now T.I. or N.E. or what does it say? Yeah or N.E.? F.E. or N.E. It's both. It's both F.E. and N.E. So the reason it's good F.E. is because my extroverted intuition is on point. So I can say snappy things, right? I can come up with a cutting witticism to assert dominance over you, whoever you are, right? You know, and there's a variety of strategies. So if I am dealing with certain people, a good strategy might be something like, I'm rather surprised, sir. I expected a higher level of professionalism from this outfit. You know, that might be the right approach. But it might be the right approach to be like, are you serious? You cannot be telling me the truth right now. Surely you are pulling these yarns of fantasy out of a cloth of nothing. Because what you are saying to me and the truth could not be any further apart from one another. So, are you going to continue to stand there and bald-faced lie to me in the face? Because that's what you're doing. Stop lying. Sometimes that's what it requires, right? It depends. When you can catch them in something that's untrue, always call it a lie. Never give them the chance to be wrong, except they concede ground to get that status. No, we're learning how to, not have our boundaries be crossed and how to respond if they are crossed. I don't go out trying to cause problems with people. I don't go to the pharmacy hoping my drugs are late again so I can yell at the pharmacist. I go there saying, okay, I'm back again. Please tell me my drugs are ready. I don't want to hear any other words from you. Just, yes, sir, your drugs are ready. If it's going to cost this much, I'll get them right now. If I were your student in the first day of class and you said, I'm here to teach you all, tell me how to fuck off, I'd probably immediately take the opportunity to say, fuck off. How would I deal with that? Say, good, great. Now I'm going to teach you when it's good to tell me to fuck off. So my goal and your goal should be aligning here. We both want to win this debate tournament. I need you to understand all this shit, right? However, if ultimately the decision about what to run is your decision. If I say you need to run this case, this is the case you should be running, that's just bullshit. And you should listen to me. But remember, it's your choice. So if I keep pushing on it and you don't want to run it, tell me to fuck off. Fuck you. I hope it was okay I said that. It was okay. The thing is, in a competition debate class, it's not like a regular classroom. We're actually there to get things accomplished. You know, we do. It's real work. It's like a football practice or something. There's not a lot of time for joking around and fucking around and stuff. If you're a serious team that's trying to win, you know, you're either cutting cards, making cases, cutting ATs, running scrimmages, or whatever. So a real thing is so much better than a fake thing in every instance. Like in a class, like a math class or something, you have a fake competition called grades. And so what does that mean? You have a fake standard of success called an A or 100% or whatever. That's not a standard of success. It's real because what qualifies as 100% is dependent on what questions are asked and stuff, right? Like, so if I'm a teacher and I give a test that's too easy, maybe it'll have a lot of 100% on it. If I give a test that's too hard, maybe it won't have any 100% on it. But what's actually a real thing is rankings. Compare, you know, a binary thing. So instead of grades, a class has first place, second place, third place, fourth place, all the way down to 20th place, 21st place, and there are no ties. Then that's a real competition. That's why regular classes should be graded like that, but they aren't. What is graded like that? That's called a zero-sum competition. That's a debate tournament. I don't want you kids to get an A in this class because that's worth as much as a handful of air. I want all of you guys to beat all of the other guys. I want you to beat them so badly they leave the round crying. And I want all the other kids from all the other schools to lose to even the worst of my kids. Right. Public school should make public every assignment that every teacher assigns, posted on the walls in the school, and every grade that every student gets on every assignment. Then the teachers would have to be accountable too. Why has Mrs. Mia assigned so many more assignments than Mr. Mia? Oh, well, because she's a better teacher. No, it's monopolizing too much of the students' assignment time. Remember, ideally, the school should teach the students entirely during the whole day it has to teach them, instead of assigning homework so the students can teach themselves when they get home later that day. Hi, James Day. Will it make you mad if I suggest you take a deep breath? No, that doesn't make me mad. I think deep breaths are good. They're good ways to get more oxygen into your lungs, you know. See, that's not worth anything, money. People need the actual natural consequence of real competition if they want to include anything in competition at all. So if you want something to be a fully cooperative endeavor, then there doesn't need to be any competition. But school is definitely not that. If you want it to be a fair competition among students for opportunities at the end of their schooling that are weighted accordingly, like the best performing students get the best opportunities. If you want it to be like that, then it needs to be a fully fair and transparent competition. And if you were that, then we'd have to get rid of the idea of like no child left behind, and the idea that just if you are good enough at educating, you can turn everybody into everything. It's insane. My sister's friend would basically give me all the answers on my homework. And in your pants. Ooh, la, la. James Day, you sound like the kind of guy who had a stepsister. If you're like me, you know from various movies on the web that stepsisters are poorly behaved and need to be disciplined. And that there's only one good, consistent way in which a stepsister learns. Okay, from what I can tell from these movies I've been seeing. Yeah. Well, 4 years older doesn't mean she didn't need your helpful and instructive guidance, James Day. It's quite possible you walked in on her and she might have even been dressed in unacceptably slutty clothes. You know, she could have been trying to go out the window when she should have been doing her college homework, things like that. And you had to say, hey, stepsister, I'm Jackson. Get in here. God. You're part of this family now, okay? Your mom married my dad, okay? But we Kunzes make sure that all of us are behaving appropriately. So you get in here right now. That's right. Yeah, I'm just going to put this in there. No, this is part of your lesson. Just, that's fine. No, I can't understand what you're saying now. It just sounds like, oh, so you can tell me after you're done. The strongest motives are to not be last and to defend being first place. That's why the happiest cows are in the middle of the line. There's a study that shows that because cows have this thing where they line up at the food trough at the farm in a certain order. The dominant cow, second most dominant, third, no. And then the least most dominant cow. I don't remember when I read this. This is a long time ago I read this. Or maybe it was a teacher who told me about this in their class or something. I have no idea where I heard or read this, but I heard or read this a long time ago. The cow in the middle of the line, or a little bit above the middle of the line, is the happiest cow. See if anybody can. Maybe some teacher was just making this shit up and spewing it in class. Maybe it's just bullshit. I don't know. But that's what I remember learning at some point. It's actually not quite the middle, though. It's more towards the top, but not too close to the top, so that you're not subject to constant threats of like people trying to challenge you for dominance. She moved with my grandmother at 16, and I walked in on her and the boyfriend, and that's when that's when she got DP'd. Now, the story is supposed to be you walked in on her masturbating. And you had to teach her a lesson that that's not appropriate for a nice girl like her. I guess they'd have to have some sort of metric of signs of stress, you know. I'm not sure how they'd measure that. Maybe they did a questionnaire. Maybe they asked each cow to self-report their level of happiness. Well, you would imagine that the most docile cow would be at the end of the dominance line, not in the middle, right? I think the idea is that there's a certain spot in a hierarchy where you are happy because you're better than average, but not a threat to others, so you're not subject to as much challenge. Maybe it's milk production, yeah. Maybe it's which cows produce the most milk. I don't know. Maybe somebody could Google it. We could just stop speculating. And see what the internet has to say. We could do that. I like speculating. Speculating's fine. I don't have a problem with speculation. All this talk of stepsisters is making me. I wonder if Rachel's my stepsister. Do you think she is? She seems like my stepsister a lot of time. A lot of times. Look what you are wearing, Rachel. I'm going to have to teach you an important lesson about what happens when you dress all sexy like that. The ones that are smiling the most. I mean, I think you can legitimately distinguish between more and less stressed out cows. You certainly could if you were to do an experiment where you purposefully stress out a cow over the course of a few days regularly and have another cow that's not stressed out over the course of a few days regularly, a control cow. And you could make note of the behavioral, physical, and other indications of stress that the cow reveals. And then you could use that as a metric to determine which cow is least stressed. She's not allowed to hold the soap, actually. Because I don't think she knows how to clean herself properly. I need to do that job. Yeah, I mean, I think I probably should have said at the outset, the the cow in the towards the middle, but a little above, is the least stressed cow rather than happiest. You know, the whole idea of wagyu beef or Kobe beef from Japan, or wagyu beef in general, is that the less stressed out a cow is, the more delicious it tastes. I like that idea. It's it's such a it's such a an amusingly agricultural notion. Like, we're gonna kill these animals and eat them, but we have to make sure they have no idea that's what's going on because if they're stressed out, their meat isn't as tender. Well, you know, I don't think we even kill and eat dairy cows. Do you think when dairy cows get older and they're not making as much milk, they get turned into beef cows? It's the cut with the most marbling, sure, from a specific cow. But I'm saying the idea, I don't know if it's even true, but the idea is that if you take the same exact cut from two cows, one of whom has led a pampered life in Japan with daily rubs from Japanese cow makers, that, and then you take the same exact cut from a regular cow, that the former will be tenderer than the latter, even if they had exactly the same amount of marbling. Obviously, you want to get the cut of beef that has the most fat in it because that's the best cut. If more stressed cows taste better, that would be horrible because then farmers would have an incentive to mistreat their cows. I like it. I like the idea because it provides incentive for unstressed cows. And in fact, all the cows around here, this is an agricultural county, and we do often drive past, ranches and stuff that have cows. All the cows around here just wander around on hills and eat the grass and stuff and seem to have happy lives. It's weird. Sometimes you'll see as you drive by, there's a lot of cows in a big field, but they're all standing in this one corner next to these fences. Like, what are you doing, cows? You have this whole field of grass, and you want to stand right up against the fence that prevents you from going outside over there instead of just going over here where you have all this room to walk around. Who knows what the cows are thinking? Like all the cows, you got this massive field, like rolling hills, and a bunch of cows. And sometimes you see what you expect, like cows kind of spread out eating the grass in various spots. And sometimes you see them just all like gathered together in a group by a fence. You gotta wonder, what are you guys doing? What are you doing? You're just standing by the fence and looking at the fence. Like, well, guess this is as far as we can go. Like, turn around, go the other way. Is that what happened? They were all kind of walking this way. They got to the fence, and they just, geez, there's a fence here. And then the rest of them all started walking. And they're like, well, the cows in front of me have stopped. So, I see. There's a fence here. And then they just all kind of stand at the fence and wonder what to do. I don't know. But I like cows. Cows seem to like me too, I think. Cows folded thousands of times and forged with different hardening by Japanese master cowsmiths. That's right. Do you think cows think that they are the superior life form? I don't think they evaluate that question very often. Like species superiority. Hey, Bessie. Yeah? Do you think there are any animals that are, better or more important or smarter than us cows? I mean, I can't think of any. We got, humans, they just feed us and milk us and stuff. Pigs, chickens. Well, I guess we're at the top of the chain, top of the food chain. We eat the grass. That's the high as you can go. Not sure what cognitive functions are at play here. No, this isn't bullshit. This is an actual transcript of a real philosophy conversation between two cows at the farm. You want to be reincarnated as a breeding bull. See, this is how you know cows are not very smart. Because there's this old joke. There's an old cow and a young cow at the top of a hill. I mean, an old bull and a young bull at the top of a hill. And they're looking down at a meadow below there where there's a whole field of cows. And the young bull says to the old bull, "Let's run down there and fuck us a cow." And the old bull says, "No, let's walk down there and fuck all the cows." Except in reality, the old bull and the young bull would practically fight to the death to prevent each other from fucking even one of those cows. Because cows are so dumb that if you're a male cow, you think it's more important for you to exclusively fuck all 20 of those cows than it is and get injured fighting for the right to do so and prevent anybody else from fucking any of the cows, that you probably only get to fuck cows at all for like 1 year. If you're in natural competition, you might die at the end of breeding season because you fought off so many other bulls. If I was a male bull, while all of that shit was going on, I'd sweet talk one of the cows and section her away from the rest of the cows and go off in the bushes. And I'd just fuck just that cow. Right? And if I wanted to keep that cow around and just fuck her for days and days, we could just wander off to some grass over there. And then all the other bulls can fight to the death for fucking all the cows. See, I'm a sensible person. I'm a human. I'm not a cow. I understand that I don't need to fuck all the cows and also prevent anybody from fucking any other cows. Sounds a lot like high school. Yeah. Cows are a lot like high school. I'm starving to death. I need to eat a bite of something as a tide me over until these potatoes come out of the oven. Well, like if you read about the bison buffalo or whatever, and their mating habits in the wild, that's exactly what they do. The male cows wait until they've grown up enough that it might be their turn to have their prime of bullness. And if they're priming a certain number of years old, still young enough to be super virile and fit, but old enough to be maximized your size, well, then you'll probably be engaged in a succession of battles to preserve your exclusive claim on this harem of cows. And often, at the end of the mating season, the cow that has preserved this harem will die. I mean, the bull that has preserved this harem will die because he's fucked and fought himself to death. That's not a smart approach. If I were a buffalo, I'd rather be a chick. Sure, I don't get to pick which bull fucks me, but he's busy. He's mostly busy fighting and fucking all the other cows, so I only got to put up with it occasionally. Alright. Oh, whatever. I don't like this bull. He's a dick. Don't worry, next year we'll have another bull fucking us. It's fine. Sure, Joe will kill him, gore him, whatever. And once he's on his knees, battered and bruised from a season of fighting, and he reaches out and says, Bessie, I love you. I just kick him right in the face and say, fuck off. You harem-keeping, violent animal. And then I'll have my vengeance. I'm in the prime of my boldness. I mean, I'm not out of the prime of my boldness. I'm pleased with the way that so far so good. My body still works properly, you know. I'm not like I'm obsessed with sex or anything, but I do think that regular intercourse is an important part of a healthy relationship. And that's why I help my wife. Purely because I want to maintain a healthy relationship. For no other reason than that. I need to see other people. Cosmic Pentastar. I'm not sure puns are allowed today, but maybe they are. If I could save pee in a bottle, the first thing that I'd want to do is fill all these bottles right here with my pee and then give all the bottles to you. Hi, UWAIS. How's it going? I hope you are well. I am having lunch shortly. It's going to be potatoes. I'm going to make potatoes with sour cream, butter, salt, maybe a little shredded cheese. Elaine, what you're saying is that you're traumatized by waiting too long for the shipment of bottles filled with my pee, aren't you? I'm sorry to make you wait, but I don't generate that much urine, okay? If you want me to provide the whole world with bottles of urine, you're going to have to wait your turn. Seems like that song, those should have been the lyrics of that song. Just like the lyrics of that one song by that one guy, Robert Palmer, should be, might as well face it, you're addicted to drugs. It should be that. Sounds like an Amazon driver's average day. Well, sounds like a response by the eBay team to your blog critiques. For those who don't know, there's this hilarious and wonderful story about eBay trying to crush these two like Midwestern older regular people bloggers who critique eBay on their blog. It is one of the craziest things I've ever heard about. I was fortunate because one day Lou shared with me this wonderful story, and it's delightful. Yes, you can, but remember, I only ship within the contiguous United States, so you might have to travel here to pick them up. I'll get a forklift to bring you the flat of bottles of pee from the back of the warehouse when you get here. A piece of lunch meat. What's a piece of lunch meat? I can't fly you out here right now. My hot air balloon is in the shop. I wish I hadn't bought that hot air balloon. It turned out to be a lemon. I'm always having to take it down to get repaired. Last time it turned out there was a problem with the air. Ooh, this kind of air is not going to heat up. There's your problem. You know, the kind of air you got in here heats up like 5 times as slowly as regular air. Something for you to snack on. Oh, piece of lunch meat. That would have been fine. I ended up not getting anything to snack on. Well, the other one is my Zeppelin, and that's currently being used to evacuate refugees from war-torn Mogadishu. You might say, isn't a Zeppelin a poor way to evacuate people from an area where there's anti-aircraft fire and so forth? Well, it's painted, the underside of it is painted sky blue. So the whole thing is painted sky blue with some clouds painted on it, so you can't really see it. And that's why I haven't gotten it back yet. They say it's parked in the sky somewhere near here, but I can't see it. Am I a steampunk villain? I am somebody who doesn't approve of steampunk, but that doesn't make me a steampunk villain. The quickest way to ensure that a girl's virtue remains intact is to put some steampunk stuff on all of the males in attendance. You can be guaranteed that none of them will be having sex with that lady. Steampunk, the early 2000s way to avoid getting laid. Are you in a relationship but don't trust yourself? Are you afraid that if you go to this party, you might get drunk and cheat on your partner? Have no fear. Try our new product, Steampunk outfit. Just simply put these steampunk things on your outfit, and no woman will ever consider you a viable sexual partner. You can no longer trust traditionally nerdy stuff to keep girls away. Chicks are into coding and cartoons and stuff these days. But you simply add this steampunk stuff plus these magician's accoutrements. I can guarantee you, you will never get any attention from women. All right, let's try cutting our potatoes with a pizza cutter. Well, you're going to cut the potatoes with a pizza cutter, you might be saying. Well, I don't know why. I just saw it and thought that might work. It does work. Just gotta cut them in half like this. There we go. And just cut them like that, like this. Yeah, like that. And yeah, like this and that. And the other. Just gonna meow all around. Meow, meow, meow. There we go. Okay, good job, everybody. Good job. You've cut the potatoes with the pizza cutter. Good for you. Now we're going to rinse off the pizza cutter underneath the water. Alright, now we're going to put this back into the drawer. Next we'll get some of this garlic salt stuff. There. Just sprinkle a bit of that around here like so. There. Now we will get some butter. This is a little bit of butter, but I might need to open a new stick. Today is the greatest day I've ever known. Can't wait for tomorrow. Tomorrow's much too long. I'll close my eyes out. Meow, 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 meow. Okay, now we're going to put some of this cheese on it. Okay? These cheeses are cut into the little shreds. Put this on it like that. Alright, good work. Alright, sour cream. Got the sour cream. Now we're going to need to get a little scooper. There we go. This is fine with the scooper. That's too much sour cream. Fine. That's enough sour cream. Put this, rinse off this scooper. Okay, rinse this off, put that back in there, put the sour cream back in the fridge. We'll get our last ingredient, ketchup. Unfortunately, when I was opening this, I held it by this lid part and the lid broke off, so I have to have aluminum foil over my ketchup now. Next, we're going to need a fork. Delicious, I'll say. Yes, I washed the pizza cutter. I washed it and put it back. I'm not drizzling olive oil on it. I've got butter. Butter is the olive oil of cows. I did not mutilate these potatoes. I prepared them. I prepared them for the upcoming apocalypse. They've got bottled water. They've got a sealed bunker with an air scrubber in it, a CO2 scrubber. They've got plenty of warm clothes. There are plenty of arms and ammunition. They've got a big piece of land in the wilderness. I don't really want all these skins. Go in the trash. I need a napkin. I'm getting food all over my hands. Let's go get a napkin. Nobody knows yesterday's stream did not use the vertical screen. Oh, that one I had to delete that. Unfortunately for that guy, I forget what his name is, but he walks too much along the edge of YouTube's community standards in two specific areas. One, he went inside a weed store and showed what was happening. You're specifically not allowed to do that on YouTube. It specifies that. It specifies a dispensary, a documentary about a dispensary, but presumably you're not allowed to show footage of a dispensary. And two, I asked what I thought was a fun kind of safe question, which is, do Mexicans get along with black people in Compton? But unfortunately, it led to some somewhat racist commentary by the guy, and I was concerned about that getting flagged too, so I ended up deleting that video. That one that was not vertical was because I was streaming from Google Meet, which lets you do. It's very easy to do. Like, I can stream talking with family people from Google Meet more easily than I can stream normally from the phone. But obviously Google Meet streams horizontally, doesn't stream vertically. And I can orient my phone either horizontally or vertically when in the video conference. There is sour cream on this. It's good to get some food in me. We all need to make sure we take care of our physical needs. How does this correlate with MBTI though? How does what correlate with MBTI? Yeah, wear these copper-colored welding goggles on your bowler hat. Why? Honey, I just don't want you getting any kind of weird diseases or anything. How is this going to prevent me from getting diseases, Mom? Don't worry about it, Timmy. Just wear the hat and goggles the whole time of the party, just to make your mom feel safe, okay? Okay. Gosh, Mom, I don't understand why I can't get anywhere with any of the girls. Well, that's because they respect you and they know you want to save yourself for the right person. Sup, Carlos? Sup? Hey girl, how's Portugal treating you? So is Portugal done on Ronaldo? Is everybody was like, okay, we should never even let you bet on the team this time, Ronaldo. You are no longer on the Portuguese national team. That's what I'd be like if I was Portuguese. They let him carry on for way too long based on what he'd done in the past. You could tell the last World Cup that he was washed up. Why they continue to play him through the Euros, beyond me. Come on, he's washed up, dude. I watched the Euros. He is so lazy. He runs. He's so much less like diligent about making runs and shit than other strikers. He's not fine still. Only Helen of Troy, history's finest, most pure and true woman. Also, you don't have a better one. Okay, well, if you don't have a better replacement for him, then fair enough. But I mean, even if you got somebody who was less talented but 20 years younger, he'd make all those runs. He wouldn't be so lazy. At the end of the last Portugal game, I could not believe how much standing around he was doing. Man, I get it. There's some standing around in soccer. Players have to do, a succession of running really hard and then just kind of like walking or jogging. And running really hard and then kind of like walking and jogging. But Ronaldo only seems to care about like, if this, whatever I'm doing, doesn't lead to me having a goal shooting opportunity, then I won't do it. So I think you should trade Argentina for Lionel Messi. See if you can get Argentina to trade you Messi for Ronaldo and the recipe to paellas. Okay, well, Carlos, I want you to talk to the King of Portugal for me. Tell him I will take over coaching the soccer team and I will make the personnel decisions. Me, Eric. Because why? I'm an intelligent, informed soccer watcher. I've watched international soccer for quite a while now. I know about it. I know how it works. About the kick in, the heading the ball around and stuff. And I can tell who's good and not. Maybe you could give Ronaldo amphetamines before the second half. A lot of them. That would help. Or bring him off the bench at halftime. You know, why don't more coaches do that? Or they have like a first half starter and then a second half starter. And then you start the first half with the not so good guy. So you're, in case it goes to extra time, your best guys aren't so tired at the end. Why don't they do that? Why don't more people do that? If I were a soccer coach, I'd start the game with the subs and then hope they can hold their own. But if they seem to be getting overrun, I'd gradually plug in the better players because you want your best players to be freshest at the end. So obviously, the world needs an American like me to teach them how to coach soccer. No, I don't watch MLS because I might occasionally watch a game, but I don't have any team or anything that I watch or care about. I just if there's nothing else on, there's a soccer game on, I might watch it. Subs don't hold their own. And look at Spain, Elaine. Spain replaced practically their whole team for the third game of the group phase and looked just as dominant. And then went on to win the Euros. Actually, played out as I predicted right at the beginning. After watching every team play one game, I said, I think Spain's going to win. And I was right. I also said, I'm rooting, though, for England, so I was happy that England got second place. And, you know, if it weren't for that amazing save on the goal line by the Spanish player who wasn't the goalie, who headed away a sure goal by the English player, England might have won that game, you know? So, but once again, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. England fails to win another major tournament. Germany lost to Spain in the game that would have been the finals probably had the brackets been lined up like that, you know? You'd make all the best guys play the whole 90, but you'll know for sure that after running for the better part of an hour and a half, that at the end, they're going to be more or less out of gas. It's like, let's imagine that if you were in a car race, instead of having a pit stop where they put more gas into your car, you weren't allowed to refill a gas tank. You had to switch into a new car with another instance of the car with a full gas tank. But that additionally, they had 5 cars. One was all the way full. The next one was 4/5 full, 3/5 full, 2/5 full, 1/5 full. You'd want to start your race by having your driver drive the 1/5 full first, then the next one, then the next one, and work your way up to the fullest one. And I guess the race would be who's ever in the lead when everybody runs out of gas. I'm not sure. Whoever goes the farthest, that would be a race for fuel efficiency then. I'm not sure how those race works. But the point is, you want to put the 1/5 tank out first. So same with soccer. Why don't, except it's a little different in that, you know, the car that you're driving in at the end of the race is the one that's been on the racetrack for the least amount of time. So in that regard, you want your best cars to have been on the track for the sweet spot amount of time, which is not going to be the whole race for sure. And it's not going to be just the last 15 minutes, right? You probably want to put in your best players, definitely not at the very beginning of the game, maybe 15 or 30 minutes into that first half, or, you know, like 20 minutes. Let them take the half of the first half off. Because remember, we're talking specifically now about games that might go to extra time. If you're in a knockout round of a major tournament, then if it's tied at the end, it doesn't go straight to PKs, it goes to extra time. Let's pretend you put your best players in at the beginning of the game. I still have not answered your question. Okay, well, type the question you have, a specific question, here into the chat. And we'll see if I've answered it or not. You've asked multiple questions. I don't know which one you specifically are referring to. So type the specific question you say I haven't answered into the chat, and I'll tell you if I've answered it or not, or I'll tell you what the answer is. I have another idea for soccer, which is let's get rid of offsides. Let's get rid of offsides. We don't need offsides. Anybody who scores a goal, it should always count. Unless they hit it with their hand or something, you know. Not like, oh, you were standing in front of that guy, therefore it doesn't count. Bullshit. Let's get rid of offsides. We don't need it. I did answer it. You said, if a married man and woman have sex with a third person that they are not married to, that's adultery. Oh, well, I mean, whether or not a marriage is possible is contingent on something entirely different. It's whether or not you can attain the agreement of an officiator who's legitimized by the state to preside over the marriage. Officiant, they're called. So different officiants might have different rules for what they will preside over as a marriage. If you feel like I didn't answer the question, maybe that's the answer you were looking for. So if two people are divorced, whether or not they can get married is dependent on the officiant. I have to ask a given officiant, will you marry me and Rachel, even though I've been divorced? Rachel's never been married before. Would you? Is it okay with you to marry us? Because they don't have to marry people they don't want to marry, obviously, and different churches have different rules for those sort of things. So the mistake you're making is you think that Christianity decides whether or not you can get married, when it's actually the specific officiant or church that you're dealing with and their rules. So that's where you're making your mistake. Do you understand now? So, do you agree that I've answered your question? Oh, well, no, just Colonel, you're making a category error. See, Christianity doesn't determine whether or not you can marry someone. That marriage is either a purely spiritual ritual that's done, and different churches do it differently, or it links to the state, in which case the officiant needs to be legitimized by the state to file the marriage license and stuff. No, I was correct because I live in a country where there are different kinds of churches. So um, you can certainly find a church that will marry you even if you've been divorced. Now, note that my grandfather, not my biological grandfather, my step grandfather, he married my my mom's mom, my grandmother, and she was divorced, and he was Catholic. And the Catholics initially said you cannot marry her because she's divorced. But he made a big donation to the Catholic Church, and they they made an exception for him. So he got married in the Catholic Church to my grandmother, even though she was divorced. So the thing is, that's a good example of how it's the case that it's not only is it not Christianity that decides that, it's also not even the church really. It's the specific officiant that decides that. Okay, well, just Colonel, like I said, Christianity isn't a person that has a position on things, right? You have a number of different Christian churches who interpret Christianity their own way. And so, yes, it's definitely possible to get married in a Christian church, even a Catholic church, after you've been divorced to a different person. So, now that you've learned that, hopefully you will stop being so strange about this. I have answered this question many, many times. And no, I wasn't wrong, Jess Colonel. No, it's not true that all churches say that, as I just gave you multiple counterexamples. So even when the Catholic Church was much more strict about that, back when my grandparents got married, My grandfather was a Catholic and had never been married, wanted to marry my grandmother who was divorced. The Catholic Church said, no, you cannot, but money talks. And then it said, yes, you can. The Bible doesn't forbid marriage, right? It may indicate that, say, it's a sin to covet thy neighbor's wife. It might say it's a sin to fornicate. Adultery is a sin, right? But it doesn't say that committing a sin precludes you from engaging in behavior in the future, okay? So, okay, well, then all you got to do is quote the Bible, Jess Colonel, where it says people who have been divorced cannot get remarried. Just quote it. Obviously, these people who are authority figures on the matter, they must be referencing specific language from the Bible, right? If you want, and even then, though, Jess, you're confusing the Bible and Christianity again. Remember, the Bible says many things. There are myriad different Christians, each of whom express their Christianity a little differently. Okay, Jess Colonel, I've asked you to not lie, all right? And this is not the first time you've lied. So you said I was wrong. I corrected you. And there's been no retraction. You keep saying it does, but I've corrected you. I pointed out that Christianity is not a person, okay? So if you're going to say the Bible expressly prohibits divorced people from getting remarried, then quote that. If you're saying, I have a bishop who won't marry people who are divorced, then say that, right? I'm saying I have examples of Catholics who've been married to a divorced person in the Catholic Church. That's a good example of how Christianity in that Catholic Church, if you want to insist on using the term, allowed it, right? So what you mean is the bishop you talked to won't marry people who are divorced. And his reason is because in his interpretation of Christianity, he shouldn't do that. And that's fine. And if you want to go with that interpretation of Christianity and say that for you, if you meet a divorced person, you're not going to marry them. You're going to choose a church that won't let you marry them because you think it's against Christianity. That's fine to say that, right? Do you understand now that in fact you were wrong, that in fact Christianity doesn't have a monolithic position on this, and that in fact whether or not you can get married in a given church is not dependent on anything except the officiant? Have you learned anything, or are you going to continue to persistently, relentlessly be idiotic about this? Okay, fair enough. So note, it does not say that you cannot marry a divorced woman. It says that in doing so, you commit adultery. Right? And Jess, if that's your position on it, then why don't you just quote that in the first place? And say, my position is the Bible says you shouldn't marry a divorced person because if you do, you commit adultery. Why didn't you just say that? You keep saying Christianity. Subjects matter, right? Like the Bible is not the same thing as your bishop. Your bishop is not the same thing as a Christian. Christianity is not the same thing as an interpretation of Christianity. I don't know if you, like, I'm not sure what's wrong with you not getting this. That is not your defense? Well, then what is your defense? See, Jess Colonel, you can understand why I'm so frustrated, right? When Carlos Paeva, who has no horse in this race, can give me an actual argument, actual piece of a quote from the Bible instantly, and you've spent weeks harping on how I'm wrong about this without providing any actual thing that anybody can do anything with, except you talk to a bishop who traveled diagonally. So Carlos is correct if his statement is the Bible prohibits you from unsinfully marrying a divorced woman. If that was Carlos's position statement, he would have sustained that. He successfully affirmed it. The Bible does say that. So that's because Carlos is using words correctly and well for purpose instead of to just relentlessly continue to state the same stupid shit and ignore everything I'm saying. Right? So who marries somebody? Who decides whether you can be married to this person? Who is it? What have you learned anything? If you've learned anything, tell me the answer to that question. Who is the person who decides whether person A and person B can get married, provided that marriage is legal in the country? So in some countries, gay marriage isn't legal, but have you learned this? Okay. No, but just Colonel, remember, whether or not I can marry a divorced person, you're talking about me as a married man committing adultery with a married woman who is not my wife, and can I marry her later on? Well, no, because according to the Bible, right, you cannot unsinfully do so because she too is an adulteress, right? You've made her an adulteress. And according to that Bible quote, then you can't marry her without sinning. No, you still can marry her. Right? Note that even the Bible says you definitely still can marry her. But that doing so is adultery, a form of adultery, something like that. So, can you please? No, yes, Colonel. Oh my God. So, okay, let's see. If you want me to continue talking with you, you need to answer this question. Who determines whether or not I can marry her? Which person determines that? No, I can see I can see the point. I didn't know for sure because it had never been asserted. But I can see 100% the point that the Bible says you cannot marry somebody who's committed adultery or who is divorced without committing a sin. The Bible does say that. You never said that. You never said that. The church and the Bible are not the same thing. A given officiant is not the same thing as the church. So which person decides whether I can marry Rachel, even though she's not a virgin, when I marry her? Who decides that? Which person decides that? It's not the church that decides that. It's not the Bible. Who decides that? I've already given you the answer. So if you won't tell me what the answer is, then you're not listening and I'm going to just hide you. Okay, but first tell me the answer. Which person decides whether two people can be married? And remember, okay, what kind of thing decides? Let's ask you this question. What kind of thing decides whether two people can be married? Is it a book? Is it a church? Or is it a person? Which one decides? If you say something other than person, I'm hiding you because you're lying again. I've told you the answer. I've given you examples to prove it's true, and you continue to lie. So do not lie. Will you answer the question? Who decides? Who decides it? It's the person, right? The person decides whether or not they're willing to marry you. The person is empowered by the church to be an officiant. And then that officiant decides whether these two people whether the officiant is willing to marry these two people. Okay, I'm hiding you. I'm hiding you. I will not tolerate your lies any longer. That's fine. Then the gay people can find a different officiant, right? And the Bible doesn't say you can't marry divorced people. Again, just insists on lying. It says you can't do so without sinning. So now he's hidden. Fuck up. Fucking tard. I mean, how fucking retarded can you be? Jesus Christ. Is this 1400, 1300? Is this Dark Ages or something? For fuck's sake. I can't remember meeting anybody quite as retarded as Jess Colonel since like Mr. Bobby, maybe. He's a dude. I think he's a dude who grew up in a Muslim culture, which have very much more like pre-enlightenment understandings of religion. But he converted to Christianity. That's what I'm thinking. Right, but see, like he didn't want to use words correctly. He didn't say, um, it's not a, it's considered a sin by the Bible to marry a woman who's divorced. He didn't say that, right? He thinks that it's perfectly acceptable to say Christianity. You cannot marry a divorced woman in Christianity. Christianity disallows it or something. Except the only meaningful way we can understand Christianity is as a behavior, faith, culture that the adherents to the religion exercise. Christians don't behave as though, by and large, most Christian churches don't behave as though it's a sin to marry divorced people. If you ask a variety of different officiants, they'll give you different answers, you know, including a variety of different Christian officiants. And most importantly, real Christians aren't worshiping the false idol of the Bible, you know. The Bible is a book written by Jesus' dumb friends. It is not anything upon which one ought to predicate faith. So, I try to explain this to Christians, but there are some people who make this category error where they want their magical thinking frame to operate as though it were physical science or something. I don't know. Pre-enlightenment thinking. Hello, dog. This guy who walks his dog with the orange car. He's got his dog trailing behind him. It's frustrating when people won't hear words, right? Like, I made it clear to him that his metaphor of a religion determining whether or not it's okay to get married, independent of the actual practice of that religion in every instance, you know, it's like he doesn't get that if he wants to make a claim that Myanmar prohibits this, he needs to articulate the correct subject, right? His point is, the Bible, that wasn't even his point. Even when Carlos said, he said, that's not my defense, though. My defense is that a bishop I trust told me. I mean, then how can you possibly rebut that except with anything other than, well, a bishop I trust told me, an archbishop told me. Oh, well, I guess your archbishop is more an expert than my bishop. How about just relentlessly persisting in an appeal to authority fallacy is just insane. That scares me, right? That kind of stupidity scares me. Have somebody who's that rigidly locked into my metaphors are literal. Right, it's true that the Bible, as far as I know as well, maybe Carlos will correct us here on this one too. The Bible says not one single word about abortion. Where are all these Christians getting the idea that abortion's a sin? I agree that it's ugly, right? I don't like it. Nobody should.
But having said that, I'm like everybody else, really. Like, yeah, but if I really needed it, then fine. All right, well, I'm going to wrap this up because I'm running out of electricity, and I don't know where my charging brick is. So anyway, thanks for being here, everybody. Love you all. I got to go to the store anyway. So see you later. Bye.